Good morning. Welcome back. We've got a really great jam-packed morning for you. I want to start by introducing Alan Guarino. Alan Guarino is a West Point grad and a former chief executive. In 2003, he sold his company to Adecco, which at the time was a $20 billion company headquartered in Zurich. He then served as CEO of his business for an additional 4 years. He authored the book Smart is Not Enough, which was published by Wiley, and he joined Korn Ferry in 2007. As Korn Ferry's vice chairman, Alan works with CEOs to transform human resources and execute their strategies. And Alan has some choice words for us. Alan?
Oh. Mike, thank you very much for the introduction. It's great to be here. Unsung heroes. I walked in this morning, and I don't like to use the podium and the mic thing. And so I went in to talk to the folks that are miking up. And I don't know if you've been in there, but I asked them what time kickoff was. Because it's like the Super Bowl. It's amazing. So I just wanted the slimmer lens, but they weren't able to provide that. Everything else is good. So this ain't your daddy's workforce is the theme, right? Nor is it your daddy's or your father's work environment. So I'm here to give you a talk, which is good news, because the difference between a talk and a presentation is that a talk gives you the what, and they're shorter, and they don't have the dreaded big deck. Presentations, on the other hand, give you the what and the how, but you have to suffer through the deck. I have one slide, so that should be encouraging. So I have 9 minutes and 37 seconds to finish up. The mission of this workforce that we have today is no different than it's ever been, and that is to execute the strategy. It's to get the work done that the organization needs done to deliver its value proposition. So when we talk about optimizing this workforce, we need to think about many, many things, but I want to break it down to simple concepts that you can actually bring to work every day. So I'd like to ask, first of all, show of hands, how many of you are chief executive officers? Great, most of you. And how many of you who are not chief executive officers actually have to get things done and execute on strategy? Okay, great. So as chief executive promised me, everybody here is going to be interested in these thoughts. So there are three things that I'd like you to hear about today and take with you. The first is that the executive team or the leadership teams within your organization may very well, with very high probability, not be aligned against the strategy. And I know this from experience, so it's both anecdotal and probably proven out in statistics. And what I mean by that is that sometimes they are this wide apart, and sometimes they are this wide apart, but rarely are they this way. So think of aligning against a strategy. You know, I might date myself, but think of an old war movie, a George Patton type thing, where the ultimate alignment is this operation of all of these tanks massing towards an objective. No one's wandering around wondering where they need to go. No one's not bought in because there's massive interdependence. Because if I don't do my thing, then there's big consequences for the others. So this notion of being bought in and bringing all of this power to bear on the execution of the strategy is critical. So when I tell you that there's a high likelihood that your leadership team is not fully aligned, that should scare you, and it should also say that it's a very important part of my job. Second is that there are new ways to invest in talent that can actually move the needle in total shareholder return, revenue growth, and earnings. And that's no small thing because it's actually a new and more powerful tool than you've ever seen available during your career residing within human resources. And thirdly, you are not the boss. You work for your people. They don't work for you. Okay, now there might be some people whose minds are now wandering saying, wait a second. So focus back, because we're going to cover that. But those are the three things that I want to share with you today. So let's talk about the first one. Let's talk about alignment. 20 years ago, 30 years ago, business pace was slower, less complex. CEO's biggest job was making sure that the team was getting it done. But it was easier. It's not so easy anymore. So now what you see are things like, too much noise coming up to my level is what a CEO says to me. I wish I had one more person who could do this. I wish my teams could get things done faster and better. I'm not going to make fun of my friends in IT, but of course they always say, and gee, I wish IT could get projects done. The point is that things are complex and alignment is more important than ever before, and there's a good chance the executive team is not aligned. Now there's 3 types of teams. The lowest level of team evolution is a working group. We've all been involved in them. We probably call them a committee. Kind of know where we're going, kind of got to get stuff done, and have some internal processes to work together, but we're a committee. The next level is a team. That's a committee, highly evolved, very clear onto where they're going, and probably have more sophisticated internal processes, and that's great. Couple that with alignment, and you're going to go where you want to go. You're going to hear less noise, you're going to get more done. The third level is a high-performing team, and that's a team that actually cares about one another. So you have to ask yourself, of those folks that I lead, which one are we, and how do we get better? Critical to the execution of your strategy, and probably the cause of the majority of the noise that comes up at your level. And the people below you won't be aligned if your team's not aligned. So, alignment. New ways to invest in talent. Human resources function historically has been labeled an administrative function, is what it is, gets a lot of things done. Those things that it does are critical, but not historically known to move the needle. How many of you have ever been with a unit, either coming up in your career or recently as a leader, where you could look back at the end of the year and say, if it wasn't for HR, we never would have accomplished the mission? Okay, not a ding on HR. Hasn't been the focus. HR has the ability to be, quite frankly, the most powerful organization in the company. My sense is that we should relabel human resources. We should call it the Human Capital Solutions division of the company. And I think we should relabel the Chief Human Resources Officer title, and they should become Division President Human Capital Solutions. And they should run it like a business because there are very big things that HR can do. So I'll give you some examples. We have some intellectual property that we've done research on, and it's been published, and I'm happy to share it with you. There is a methodology and a tool that you can use when you hire people. You can also use it for promotion, but I'll give you the example on hiring, where if you use this tool, you will be 8 times more likely to retain or promote the individual than if you did not include it in your hiring process. 8 times more likely that you are going to hire someone who, in 18 months following the hire, is either promoted or retained, compared to doing it without that human resource process. How many of you ever made a bad hire? Raise your hand. Feels great, right? It's brutal. It's more expensive than we could probably even measure. So, interesting, HR moving the needle. Another thing, HR programming. If your programming is oriented on building enterprise leaders, so whether you're a tiny company or a big company, the money you're spending trying to make those leaders better, if it's oriented on enterprise leaders who could be able to work across the organization in different areas, versus leaders that are very competent working in their silos, if the enterprise leader program strategy is the one that you use, statistically, you will have better revenue growth and better earnings than companies that don't develop talent in that way. I can give you, no kidding, probably 50 more what I call tactics that added together create a very powerful strategy for how human resources is a business inside your company, and they have one customer, and that's the company they work for, and they're delivering solutions that create major impact, move the needle, total shareholder returning, earnings per share, revenue growth, and so on. And by the way, catastrophic if it's poorly done. There's examples most recently in the automobile industry of companies that have gotten in real trouble on some of their manufacturing processes, and even on ethics. Misaligned performance management systems create behaviors that could wipe out billions of dollars in shareholder value if that reward system isn't eliciting behaviors that are good for the company. So not only can HR be very powerful in actually generating revenue, but it can also be very powerful in causing issues as any other unit could. So new ways to invest in talent. Okay, my one slide. All I need is a button. Thank you. Okay, so my hypothesis is the chart on the left is the way talent was distributed in our lifetime and before and over the career period where we all probably grew up. And this is what it looks like today. So chart on the left, people to the left side, they were not so good to really, really poor in terms of getting their job done. People to the right, pretty good to great. What's happened, because of what I call the ACG curve, acceleration, complexity, and globalization, the talent pool that we're pulling from is smaller, and it's not only because of skills. The talent pool we're pulling from is a talent pool that is having to work in an environment that's a pressure cooker. So what I mean by this is we have 15 million Americans today, out of work. And we have, we have 15 million open jobs and 6 million Americans out of work. How does that math work? 15 million open jobs, 6 million people that don't have jobs. Skills gap? No. Part of it. But in that group, there are Java programmers, there are leaders, managers, there's all kinds of technically qualified, skill-qualified people, but they go to work and they fail because of the pressure cooker environment that we're asking them to work in. It is a Super Bowl playing field every day because of acceleration of results that are being demanded, complexity, and globalization. So the secret sauce, the thing that you can do as the leader that you probably haven't seen before, and if you have, you're very fortunate, is to remember that you're not the boss. Now, it is all about you, but it's not all about you in the way you think that phrase is all about you. It's all about you because you're going to set this tone and be an enabler. So don't infuse more pressure into this system. Be a servant leader and enable your people to do well. Go to work every day with the courage, the character, and the competence to be an enabler, not a boss. So 3 things we talked about. It's a new day. It's not your father's workforce, and it's not your father's work environment. If your team isn't aligned, you will not succeed. You will likely fail, and you can fix it. Human resources is your secret weapon. And lastly, you've got to be a genuine, caring, depressurizing enabler. Thanks.